downtown district, seeking a variance to this code section to allow the use. The downtown design guidelines state that while the installation of additional outdoor electronic displays and video screens is generally discouraged downtown, special consideration should be given to video screens proposed in the High Street corridor and the Arena district. The guidelines also stress that the importance of context and compatibility of proposals with their immediate surroundings. While electronic displays of this nature may be appropriate when part of a larger regional facility, they are deemed inappropriate when their intent is off-premises advertising. The proposed video screen will be anchored to the CSX Railroad Bridge over Neal Avenue, and its primary intent will be off-premises advertising. Additionally, the guidelines reference two applicable code sections. 3359.17b lists billboards as a use prohibited within the public right-of-way, and 3375.13 states that a graphic, sign, or advertising device of any kind or of any similar device placed, deposited, maintained, or used within any public right-of-way is prohibited. The Department of Public Service has indicated that they consider this sign as being within the public right-of-way. Therefore, although the proposal lies within the Arena District, it does not meet the guidelines with regards to general electronic displays and video screens, context, or the graphic-specific guideline. And on the call, we also have Laura Baker Morse with the City Attorney's Office. She'll be assisting, so she's present as well.
Okay.
Is the applicant?
Is the applicant here then? Is there an applicant with us?
Yes, David Hodge.
David Hodge.
Is there anybody else with your group, David?
Aaron Underhill was on, but I don't know that he's going to take the oath. He'll come down if he needs to.
Thank you. You raise your right hand.
That's right.
Swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So say I do.
I do.
I do.
Oh, we got Aaron on there too. Okay, did you see that, Louis?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Let's go from there. Does the applicant want to present here for us?
Yes, please.
By the way, I just up in front here for the commission members, everybody needs to understand we are not approving and we're not asked to approve this application. What we are asked to do is make a recommendation to City Council. They are the ones who do the variance. So our job today is to make a recommendation regarding this application here. Just so everybody understands what we're doing. Okay, then if this thing were approved, as I understand it, by City Council, it comes back to us for approval of the details on this thing in terms of, I guess, installation and anything that we have the ability to approve. Okay.
That's all correct.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you, and good morning, everyone. David Hodge with the law firm Underhill and Hodge, 8000 Walton Parkway, Suite 260, New Albany, 43054. Here this morning on behalf of our law firm, CSX Railroad, and RBX Media, who is a advertising subsidiary of Rockbridge Capital here in Columbus. After that glowing staff report there, I'd like to take a couple of steps back and talk a little bit about myself, and then dovetail that into this request and why we are bringing it forward to the commission. Many of you here on the commission I know and have done work with through the years, but several of you don't know me from Adam, and I want to let you know a little bit about my background and how it is that I do what I do. I came to Columbus in '98 for law school. I went to work at the Smith & Hale law firm in '99.
Hey.
I was looking at the downtown design guidelines here some this morning in preparation and saw that the district itself was created in 97. So as you can imagine, I sat quite a bit with Harrison Smith as he was running back and forth to then 109 North Front to Downtown Commission meetings through the inception of the process. I also watched Harrison as he helped Orange Barrel Media. They started their program downtown, which, as all of you know, is now a national program, a very successful homegrown business. The request before you is a little bit unusual, I think, in that we are calling this sign a billboard. We don't think that it's a billboard, as that term was intended originally by the city, by the Downtown Commission. Lewis, if I'm able to share my screen here, I don't know whether you can let me do that.
I don't know how. Christopher, is that possible?
Well, maybe it's not necessary. Well, I'll continue, and then if you can let me do that, that's great. To me, a billboard is not what Orange Barrel Media does with wallscape murals. A billboard is not a digital sign like the one we propose, which already exists at Staten High, at Rawdon High, at Springen High, and on the backside of the Huntington Park Stadium. A billboard is a sign on a pole or 2 poles, or there's one downtown on 4 poles. To me, that's what was intended when billboard was included as a prohibited use in the downtown district. It didn't intend to prohibit all of those types of signs. And that apparently under the city's current policy, those are all prohibited and should have gone to council. You know, we come in here on the tails of the Columbus Crew signage application. It was determined that those are billboards and that they have to go to council. Now, we're satisfied with that. We've submitted the council variance, and we're going to go through the remainder of the process. The other thing I want the commission to know is that for me, this meeting this morning is the culmination of a decade of work. And why do I say that? Because this thing's my idea. It's my idea. I was driving in and out of downtown all the time, working downtown, in and out of the Arena District, which is absolutely our regional downtown entertainment venue with soon to be 3 professional sports facilities, the Arena, which hosts rodeos and circuses and you name it throughout the year when we can all get out in public, the concert venue, the LC. So this is our downtown entertainment venue. And it's my idea. I drove that and I thought, my gosh, we should put a sign there to promote the Arena District, to promote downtown, to put butts in seats in the Clipper Stadium, to sell tickets to hockey, now to sell tickets to crew, and also at the same time promote some of our downtown events, the Pride Parade, the marathons, Pelotonia, as that's coming on. I could envision a scenario in which people partner with those different charitable organizations to raise money. And as I read this morning the downtown design guidelines, something struck me right up front in the overview section, and it said, creativity and innovation should be hallmarks of new buildings, additions, and other improvements in the downtown. Well, I think this is creative. That's not to give myself a pat on the back, but I also think this is innovative. The city of Columbus is the 14th largest city in the United States.
Am I the only one that lost David?
No.
No, I saw him.
I'm not sure what happened there.
David, I will say you do have presenter privileges now, so you can present if you want to, along with speak.
We see you, David, if you want to continue.
Okay, sure. I'm going to Well, I don't see on here, guys, where I can share content. Really well, let me see if I can.
There should be a button at the bottom, kind of like it's like one of the buttons on the bottom of the screen. You want me to share your presentation for you?
No, that's okay.
Did Christopher or Lewis run through the pictures, the images, and then David can talk about it?
I think that's probably the best way to go.
Right now, I'm not even, he's not communicating with us, I think.
Are you know?
Are we hearing everybody else, Bob and Jana and Mike and David?
I can hear you.
I can hear
Yeah,
you too.
The only one we're really hearing at this point is David Hodge, right?
Can you?
Right.
Excuse me.
But I don't hear him now.
David, say something.
Let's hear.
Does anybody hear David? I don't hear him.
No.
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 The wrong, oh, there we go. But that's from Lewis.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
we
started
need to get-
sharing again. I don't know.
It looks like he dropped off. He's going to try to come back in.
Why don't we move on to the next case? I hate to do it, and then.
Yeah, I'll have to,
I'm sorry, say that.
Phil had declared that in his document.
Joe needs to be, thank you, muted. Okay. Louis, what if Christopher tries to get David back and we move on to the next case? Because I don't know how long
Yeah.
to get this set. That makes sense. Is that all right with the commission members?
Yeah, we have a long agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Over here today. Okay, let's keep moving on to the next case. When we get him back, we'll go ahead.
All right, so
Put
the
him
next,
back.
next case, 207006, it's 5 Neal Avenue.
Yeah, I got kicked off on my
Somebody
email.
here?
It says internet's not working. You think it's them or us?
Christopher, can you mute? We're having some issues today. Okay.
Okay.
500 Neal
hold on.
Avenue, here we are. Most of you are familiar with the site. It's the Chipotle building that was recently approved.
You get off. I feel really both of us being on this fucking.
So the applicant is,
here. Anything different?
Nah, you're good. But
Christopher.
Okay.
So the applicant is proposing to install a corporate skyline sign on the north elevation of the building. The sign will measure 9 feet 7 7/8 inches, 3 feet 10 inches high for a total of 74 square feet. It will consist of aluminum and acrylic internally LED illuminated channel letters and an internally LED illuminated chipotle pepper. All lettering will be attached to thin non-illuminated backer panels. The guidelines state that corporate skylight signs should be proportional to building height and mass, as well as compatible with the building architecture. Illumination is supported. The proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to graphics and corporate skyline signs.
Let's look at a picture of it real quick. And the applicant, who's the applicant, please? The applicant, would you identify yourself, please?
Yes, Chairman. Steve Moore with Moore Signs. I'm representing Chipotle as the applicant.
Steve, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, please? Yeah, I do.
I do, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay. Here's the sign. Do you have any comments on it? Any questions?
One thing I just wanted,
Yeah.
sir, one thing I want to point out is that in the description the case evaluation, it states that the backer panels are non-illuminated. I want to point out that the red and the brown backer panels are back or halo illuminated. The white panel is not illuminated. So the white panel is what mounts to the building. The red and brown panel are halo illuminated, and the channel letters are front illuminated. So that halo illumination adds a little elegance to the sign.
So this will not be real bright light, in other words, either then, right?
No, sir. The halo light is pretty subdued.
I wanted to make a comment that I think the commission ought to pay a little bit of attention to, and this is one thing we've been trying to be careful about, and that is a bunch of signs facing the freeway there, 670. And I think we've done a pretty good job, or it has just happened, let us say, that we've not had this overabundance of, because I think that could be something that could turn into a nightmare. I personally don't have a problem with this. I think it looks, actually, as the sign person said, elegant, and I think that's good. But at any rate, I don't ask for any other questions or comments from the commission, please.
I think it's very tasteful, and I like the fact that the back panel is halo lit. I really think that adds a lot to the design.
Good. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, to me, it seems modest and seems within the scale of the building. I think it makes sense.
I do too. Any other?
Usually these things are way oversized and we have to cut them down. This one seems like it's come into us the way it should be.
Yes, it's, I think the sign is subtle. It's in good taste, and I'm looking forward to seeing it up there.
I'm hearing a bit of a consensus. Anybody want to make a motion, please?
I move to approve.
And I second.
Okay, got a motion and any other questions or comments? Anything from the applicant? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on. Is Hodge back, or do we want to move on to the next case here?
Keep going.
Okay, keep going.
Yes, sir.
David is back.
Take the public park. Next one. You got, by the way, you got the vote. That was a unanimous vote in favor, Louis.
Did I?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members.
Did I hear David was back?
David Hodge is back. Do we want to go back and let him finish his case?
Sure, whatever you want to do. You pick it. If you're ready for him, let's do it.
All right, David. You there?
David, we went ahead and knocked off.
You guys voted yes while I was gone, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. We had too many lawyers in the office watching this thing, and so I think our system got a little overloaded.
That's all right.
I had everybody get off.
You were telling us about the railroads back in 1865, and so that's where we ended up.
And I'm glad you said that, because this railroad was here before Neal Avenue. So Neal Avenue is actually in our right of way, not the other way around. The other thing, and I'll wrap this up, because I think everybody has the gist of this.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what we're gonna ask for here is respectfully request that the commission can recommend approval so that we go have our day with Columbus City Council. We think this sign is appropriate. I'm thrilled with it. You know, I've talked over the last decade with many people, you know, John Q. Public, and people think, and they say, wow, what a terrific idea. How great will that be? You know, I think that as people drive this, when it's up, they'll drive it and say, oh my gosh, you know, why didn't that happen a decade ago or longer? A couple of other references, though, to the design guidelines. The other thing I looked at this morning was some language in here that says, while including fairly specific standards in a number of areas, the guidelines are intended to allow for flexibility in their application. This is particularly important in light of the unique nature of development proposals and sites, as well as downtown generally. Now, I want to reference back over to the staff report and the materials that were provided. It's a little interesting to me that the staff came out differently for this request than they did for the Columbus crew. but I understand the law is one thing and practical reality is another.
Approval for that sign.
The-
David,
I'm not sure who's talking there. The staff report, though, it talks about our request, and it references the guidelines, which say consideration of such displays should be limited to the core area of the downtown, specifically the High Street corridor and the Arena District. All right. Such displays should be situated so as not to obscure significant architectural building elements. We meet both of those principles. It talks, in fairness, and this was also in the Cruz staff report, it talks about generally discouraged in the downtown, but we have to take that generally discouraged in the downtown with the notion that this is in our entertainment venue, in our entertainment district, and referencing back to the statement I just read that the guidelines are intended to allow for flexibility in their application. The other thing that's in here, and I would appreciate the commission considering as it sends this on to council. And I don't know whether this has been implemented before on any of the other signs in the downtown district, but it's certainly a part of your guidelines. And what we're asking for here today is a chance. Let us try this. What the guidelines say is such displays should be approved for a time period not to exceed 5 years. And so we ask you to allow us that right. Allow us to go have a conversation with city council about this. Let's dip our toe in the water here for 5 years, see how this thing works. If it's an abysmal failure, which I do not think it will be, then the sign can come down. But we're asking for you to send us on with a recommendation of approval so that we can have this conversation with city council. I'll stop talking now. I'm on hand here for any questions. I do have some things to share with you, some pictures and a kind of a mock-up video of this, but I'm afraid that my computer will crash if I bring that up. So I think I'll leave it be.
I think what you're proposing is pretty clear. I have a question for a city, and that is, irrespective of the 1850s arrangement between the railroad and the city, by any logical definition, this is affecting the right-of-way, if you will. And I just wonder what city traffic thinks about this, whether they think this is going to be a distraction that is detrimental.
So the city, as part of the council variance process, the Division of Traffic Management, they'll be able to have input and put together a staff report, which will be given to city council when they're trying to make their decision. I haven't spoken to traffic management specifically about this case. I did speak to Department of Public Service, and they consider this the right of way. They indicated that they will not have a favorable staff report.
Well, I saw that, but that was just saying it's in the right of way, and so the answer is no. I'd like to know what traffic thinks, because frankly, that's my concern about it. I don't have a design concern about it, but if this is going to cause accidents or be an issue for the flow of traffic on Hill Avenue, then I think that's something we should consider.
If I may address that.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. My partner who was on here a few minutes ago, Aaron Underhill, he's off, but he's here with me as we talked about this, and we have a study that addresses this issue from the Federal Highway Administration. It talks about signage and driver distraction. But one of the things, if you think about this, if you're driving in a car, right, and you look up, that's one thing. If you're driving in a car and you're looking to the side, outside of the right of way, like all of the other signage that exists, that's another. And I would argue that almost common sense would say that it's safer when it's in the direct line of sight than when you're looking outside of the roadway network to see a sign.
I wanted to mention that I too, although I'm hearing what you're saying and I see the validity in it, I still would want to know from traffic what they think, just because it is a very busy street and a lot there, as well as especially when there's an event, you have pedestrians walking across. So there are a lot of lane changing going on and pedestrians. So that would be very interesting to know just from, an expert's point of view. And I also wanted to mention that you said in your discussion that you see this signage as really promoting events and also public service. But really, what percentage of this would be pure advertising? Would it all be promoting events and all, advertising or for the events in the area and public service, or would there be a certain percentage that would be advertising, whether it would be, let's say, a soft drink or a beer or, some product that doesn't have to do with the community or the arena district?
Yes, ma'am. That is an excellent question. And certainly as we continue to work through this and hopefully come back eventually for a certificate of appropriateness, we'll get into some more of those details. But we think that at a minimum, at a very bare bones minimum, 1/8 of the sign would be used for city purposes, for charitable purposes. It'll be given away. So that's 1/8. But the other thing that I think would happen and can envision would be a corporate sponsorship with something like Pelotonia, where it is kind of has a dual purpose. It is advertising, but it's also promoting these charitable ventures. So at a bare minimum, 1/8, but I think that the reality is it'll be much greater than that.
Okay.
David, this is Danny Palmore, and you don't know me. I do appreciate your enthusiasm and your excitement and your love for the city. But when I'm looking at this sign, when there is not an event, something major for the city, I see Buckle Up, which is right now just looking at that as somewhat of a distraction. But when it's not community service, when it's not an event, and this goes right along with what Jana was saying, what can we see up there? Because I know it's not going to be blank. And also in the evening, is it lit at all?
Okay.
Sure. So there would be various things that go up there when it's not a charitable promotion. It would be, for example, call 222-2222 for crew, or call 555-5555 to get tickets for a hockey game, or on August 15th, Taylor Swift coming to the arena. Call 123-4567 for ticket information. There will be things like click it or ticket, or
buckle up,
stable neighborhoods.
But it's going to advertise. It's going to advertise Pepsi and other stuff too, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
And that
would represent 7/8 of what goes up there.
Advertising.
At a majority.
All the
Yes.
222s and the 555s you're talking about fall into the 1/8 category, I assume. So you're really talking about you're talking about the advertisements for the other 7/8 of the.
Correct. That's correct. But I do think, Mr. Whitman, that there would be. I mean, you can do a lot in the digital format. There would be things that are combined.
Tell us what that means and what.
Meaning, let's say Ohio Health, for example. Ohio Health supports Pelotonia, race whenever that is, August or September. Call such and such to contribute. Things like that. A dual purpose.
So are you saying that it will be digital? I had asked about it being lit. So there's a possibility that it'll be digital or it'll
Yes,
be
ma'am.
all.
Yes, ma'am. It will be digital.
It is digital.
It would have the code for this type of signage allows 8 flips per minute. So it's not going to be constant motion like a TV screen. It'll be static, but it'll be in 1 minute there will be 8 flips.
Okay.
The lighting issue is something that we would absolutely get into the details of as we worked with the commission on the certificate of appropriateness, but we would adhere to all of the requirements for that type of signage that exist in the code. And to the extent anybody thought that there should be some additional screening or some hour limitations, et cetera, those are all things on the table. It's not our idea here to come in and do one single solitary thing that is detrimental to the city of Columbus. This is certainly a capital venture, but it's also promoting our downtown entertainment venue. You could envision, somebody coming into town from California that, God willing, one day we'll have the Final Four in the arena, and it's going to provide all kinds of information about that Final Four venue, about parking, about what's going on for that for that event in our downtown.
There are some residences that are close by, and I think especially in the southeast from the overpass. And I'm wondering if you have any concerns about how that, sign changing that many times and the lighting at night, if that would affect residences that are close by.
Another excellent question. And as we continue to work through this, we'll take any measure necessary to mitigate that possibility, whether it's creation of a wing off the side of the sign or minimizing the lighting or the hours, et cetera.
As opposed to kind of flipping from one screen to the next, will these be moving images?
No special effects at all. No scrolling. It'll be static.
Yeah.
No animation. Static. Like that.
It'll have to comply with the LED section of the city code.
Levels? What's your thought on the light level? Because that becomes an issue here with some of these screens. We have I can think of one at least downtown that is simply too bright. And I think that's an issue. I don't know that I guess we do actually have some, I don't know, prescriptions on that, don't we, Louis? I don't know, in terms of the light that these things can emit.
Yes.
And frankly, I'm not an expert on that. I think Bob Leveridge knows something about it. But I think that's something that would always need to be addressed.
Right. And we're fully committed. The code does provide those standards. We will meet or exceed those standards and not do anything whatsoever to have this thing so bright that it creates a nuisance to anybody. I've also seen those, Mr. Whitman. I travel in West Virginia a lot, and there's one in Elkins, West Virginia that absolutely blows my mind when I drive by it. I mean, it's insane. That's not what we intend to do here.
Yeah, and city council, they did do a code update for the LED signs and graphics, and this would have to conform to all those things regarding how bright it can be at night, how often the screen can change. It'll restrict any kind of video, motion, or anything like that. So it will have to conform to code.
Hey, this is Tony Slanik. I think that, we got to be careful here. This will set the precedence for a lot of opportunities to cover up urban relics like the rail trestle and other things within our downtown and all over our city, frankly. I think covering it up with something like that, and having advertisement is not in the best interest of, what we see day to day here in Columbus. I think that we need to be celebrating these types of things and not advertising over top of them. So in my mind, I don't think this is an appropriate use of the bridge. I don't think it's an appropriate use of the street. And I do have concerns related to the safety, related to the flashing. And when it scrolls and the light level changes on the street, there could be potential issues with the driver.
Let me just say this in terms of the other railroad bridges in our region. I wouldn't come in here and take the position that this application is appropriate in every case, because it's not. But this bridge sits over the gateway essentially into our downtown entertainment venue, the Arena District. And so I believe that it is appropriate in this location. Possibly some type of crew promotion at the other railroad bridge down on Nationwide Boulevard, but that's not what I'm here for. So, you know, I get that folks are rightfully concerned that this sets a precedent, but I think that this is unique in terms of its location and therefore different.
I think if it was a welcome to the Arena District static sign, that would be a totally different gateway issue than advertising. I don't know. I just want to say for the record, I agreed with everything you said at the beginning of your talk about this is not a billboard, this is something else, because that was our intent when we started them in the downtown. So I have to just rub that into the city staff a little bit. But that doesn't mean but that doesn't mean that you've convinced me about the location here.
Do we have any other? I'm sorry.
I'm really struggling with this without input from traffic. We've always had, when we had issues before that would be impacted by traffic, we've had them come to our meetings and talk to us. And I think we should table this until we can hear from them.
I think that's a good point. I also wanted to mention, David, that another idea that might, you know, be, I guess, something to think about is what if, like Bob was saying, there is some type of very creative and interesting gateway greeting, because you, oh, this is a marvelous introduction to the Arena District and you're coming off of the highway. What if you had something like that and then maybe underneath it or smaller underneath it, it would say sponsored by, and that would be, let's say, the corporate sponsor for that month or so. So that's how you could get, let's say, the revenue, but at the same time, you have a very interesting gateway greeting. It in itself might not even have to be the panel, the LED panel. It could be something else that works well with the overpass, but then maybe the sponsorship is smaller. So I don't know, maybe that's another way to look at it too, where, you know, you're bridging your enthusiasm with, you know, the advertising element, but in a way that is more tailored to the situation.
And David, earlier, I think you showed an example of the skyline of the city of Columbus, which was very complimentary to the same bridge. I thought you were going to show that again, but maybe with the technology, you weren't able to show that one. But it was a really good representative, I think, of what it was you're attempting to do.
I just now tried to play a video. Was anybody able to see that?
No, I wasn't.
Let me try to share my screen one more time. I guess, Christopher Lewis, am I able to do that now?
But while you're working on that for a second, what I'm going to do is ask for a motion, and the way we do it procedurally is we will ask for a motion to approve, and if the commissioners do not want to approve it, you simply vote no. This will then go to council with no recommendation, a recommendation against it, basically. But we do that as opposed to a recommendation to deny the application. So yeah, I'm going to ask for that. There was a discussion from Bob about getting more information and tabling. But if that would happen, so be it. But we'll hear out David, and then I'm going to try to move this along. So go ahead, David. Did you get your screen set up?
Well, I did. I just played it, Mr. Whitman, but
I couldn't see it.
Apparently, it doesn't.
Chris, can you get us? Or maybe that's not on your end there, Chris Laura.
Yeah.
What does the video show, David?
It's.
Did Danny
would actually look.
Yeah, I saw it. I don't know how, but I did see it.
Did you?
Yeah, that's why I said I thought it was more complimentary. Attempting to do.
I'm sure that if he's gonna show us a graphic, it's gonna be very complimentary.
Let me try one more time. I'm going to try one more time. You guys let me know if you're able to see this.
We're all intensely staring at our screens.
Yes.
I mean, it's playing on my screen.
The applicant has our attention now, doesn't he?
All right, so let me say this. I understand.
Wow.
You would like.
We're losing David again.
David, you're breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
You can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. What I was saying is that I understand from at least a couple commission members that there's a concern about traffic safety. And I don't want this to not earn a positive recommendation based upon an issue where the commission feels that there's inadequate information. I get totally that you would like to consult with the internal traffic management folks in the public service department. And if it's the commission's pleasure, we will request that this be tabled so that we can get that supplementary information. The other thing I want to say is we'll have our own traffic engineer, and hopefully the commission's willing to listen to both to what the city's public service department says, as well as a private traffic engineer, and weigh that information together. You know,
Sure.
The city's public service department is great. That doesn't mean they're always right.
Agree.
Okay, guys, I think we've heard it. I'm gonna ask, David, did you have anything more to say then?
No, I don't.
I'm gonna ask for a motion to approve, get it on the table, then everybody will have a chance for more questions, comments. Could I have a motion to approve from somebody? Okay.
So moved.
So moved, Bob. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Danny?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is on the table. Now, any other questions, comments? We've seen this again. This is a recommendation. This would either pass a recommendation or a motion to recommend it to city council has failed. So, okay. Do I hear any other questions or comments?
Oh, Steve, I just had a question about this. So if we approve it, so if we're approving it right now, it's being tabled, but we're still recommending it to go to city council?
No, not tabled at all. The process, all we're doing is we're making a recommendation to city council, or we are not making a recommendation to city council to approve putting this graphic there. The graphic, and if city council approves it, it comes back to us for a COA, for a certificate of appropriateness. Is that correct, Lewis, procedurally?
Well, that would be correct, but the applicant has requested that we table the motion for now.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
You wanted to table it? Okay. Is that where?
I just suggested if it needs additional information on the traffic safety component, we're certainly willing to table and come back with additional information on that aspect.
What's the pleasure of the commission? What do you want to do? We can vote right now. There's a motion on the table, or I will certainly allow a tabling if that's what, if somebody out there says more information.
I'd like to table it so we can get city's traffic engineer and the applicant's traffic engineer to come talk to us.
Okay.
Yeah, I too would prefer tabling.
What, anybody, and Danny agrees?
Yes.
We're all right with that?
Yep,
And Ted? Okay,
I agree.
well, then that's fine. If
That's
that's,
good.
David, that works for you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, I call it a table, and we will not vote on the motion then. Okay, so this application is tabled.
Thank you all very much. I promise I'll be every bit as passionate this month as I was in this.
Thank you, David.
What are you going to
Bye-bye.
be? You're going to be passionate? Is that what
Yes, sir.
More passionate.
More.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your conversation with us. Okay. This case is tabled. Lewis, would you move on to the next one then, please?
Yes, the next one's 555 West Nationwide Boulevard. The applicant is returning to the commission for approval of a new 3-acre public park. The applicant presented to the commission in May 2020. Feedback from the commission included Park and Park should coordinate the development of the pump house with whoever controls it. The commission wants to see how the materiality and lighting relates to Confluence Village, and suggestion for additional benches in the central green space. You're already familiar with the park, so I won't get into the description.
Let's dive.
Yeah, the guidelines stress the need for regional scale public open spaces with integrate with a variety of culture and recreational facilities. The public realm should be enhanced with improvements that promote good design, long-lasting building construction and materials, and attention to detail. The proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to design principles in plazas and public spaces. However, the applicant did not address all the suggestions from the conceptual review. He has spoken to me since I made the staff report, and he might be able to answer some of the questions related to some of the feedback from the commission at the May meeting.
Okay. Let's walk through this. If the applicant gets up, what I want to do is, we are very familiar with this project. We've seen it about 3 times now. I think everybody likes it. Can we focus on the details, specifically what might have changed since you last brought it into us? And are you asking for approval today? For a final approval?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
who's the
Can you hear me?
Brad Westfall?
Yeah.
Anybody
Yes.
else?
Am I on mute?
No, I can hear you. Anybody else with your group?
Oh, okay.
For the, excuse me, Brad, hang on a minute.
No, I don't believe. No, I don't believe so.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So say I do.
I do.
Thanks. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this is Ted. I just wanted to mention that I'll need to recuse myself on this case.
That's fine. Okay, are we asking for a final approval today then, Lewis?
That's correct.
Okay, go ahead. Brad, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead, please.
Well, no, thanks, Commissioner.
Just from the last rendition here, please.
Yes. What we've done is we've detailed, Lewis, if you can go, sort of through the renderings, I think that helps remind people of the general overlay. We were very interested, of course, to make this pedestrian friendly, to make it a gathering space for special events, but to also honor the desire of the public to have access to the Olentangy River and the downtown riverfront. So you see an emphasis on a new boat ramp. I think I've mentioned to you that the lower Olentangy boat ramp, while busy, has been really kind of outdated and gone. We want to rebuild that. And by rebuilding it, we also want to make kayaks available to the public, either for storage and or a kiosk where they can rent those like they do bike share. So there is a heavy emphasis on, getting in and out of the waterway. This also is the companion to the Confluence Bridge, which you gave a COA in, I believe it was March or February. So the bridge and the park work in tandem there along Edge of River Drive. And we, materiality, since you saw this in May, we had some questions about buckwash concrete. So the walkways are detailed out with scoring patterns. We will be using the same brick pavement. Lewis, if you go to the construction drawings, I guess that would help, whatever the commission would like to see. We will be using the same brick pavers that Confluence Village will be using. We'll also be using, a complementary lighting fixture from Landscape Form, which I feel, and as our design team does, that that sort of enhances or complements the industrial municipal light plant power Confluence Village aesthetic that is working its way through. It's not the same. It's not identical. We think the park space is a little unique in and of itself and has a standing there, but we also respect the desire to make that all family fit. And on, you'll see, you go, excuse me?
Do we have a picture of the lamps?
Yeah, right there.
Right
it's on the
there.
screen.
Thank you.
I apologize for the scale looks a little small as you
okay.
work in here.
Okay.
There you go.
That's better.
An LED. Yeah, an LED fixture. And we've had good luck with our maintenance team on landscape forms. They're, a quality component. I want to mention this too. One detail that we've added from May is on the middle top, hardscape and paving. The existing sandstones that you see there are from the former municipal, the interurban bridge that was there up until 1920. Those are hewn, beautiful sawed stones. And there's about a couple of hundred or more square feet of that. Those are going to be salvaged and will be used for stone steps along edge of River Drive. And will also be used as a small retaining edge along the boat ramp as you decline down to go underneath the bridge and get to the ramp. Sorry, Louis, for making you skip all over here. I know that's all fun. Yeah. You will see on the right edge as you decline on the ramp, and also on the stone steps right in the middle of that ellipse oval there. Those will be, a century and a half almost sandstone that will, a century at least, sandstones that will be used in the park and repurposed. And we will.
Are there's walls or steps then? In the middle there.
Well, they're not walls. Those are steps. Those are 8-inch tread steps there. As you come up the boat ramp, that actually is a small retaining wall on the the uphill, the bank side.
I kind of like the use for the walls maybe better than the steps because the sandstone will wear a little bit, but it sure makes a pretty stone front to look at. So
Well, they're sort of like seat walls, aren't they?
like what? Seat walls. That can be very handsome. Great idea.
Yeah, we have that grade from the street to the top of the riverbank actually falls 3 to 4 feet. You could skip, seat walls or steps, but we thought to make some sort of a usable, playable green space in there that we should grade that and level that out and try and take up that grade as you see with the slope off of edge of River Drive. Just felt that was really a more attractive use of that limited space. It's not a wide area, and we're trying to maximize some use there.
Okay. Do you have anything else? I mean, have we seen, commissioners? Are you seeing what? I think we saw your plan schedule. I think we've seen that.
Yeah.
And so I think we're okay with that. The overall layout. I mean, are we ready to approve this, or does anybody have any questions? Or Brad, do you have anything else we need to know about? Obviously, we're not voting on the power plant. That's going to come back later. And that's I think that can be just a great little exclamation point on this thing. So
you mean the pump house?
Somebody do something kind of really fun with that one.
I did have I just had a couple of comments. When you were talking about the pump house, I understand that they don't own the pump house and there is going to be a future use for that. But I'm also wondering in the meantime, if there's a way that maybe that stack could be painted or something very interesting because as you're walking down the path, you really do see that. It does seem like a focal point. So maybe there is.
That's on the power plant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pump house, is it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant the power plant.
The pump house is this little brick building on the right.
Yeah, the one that's on the premises. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess you're right. I mean, I guess that one is across the street. So maybe that isn't. I believe that's across the street. So maybe that's not. really.
Got a big crew decal on it now, I think.
No. Okay, and
Looks
then,
great.
Let's focus on the park here then.
yeah, okay, so I also wanted to just mention that I like that when I was looking at your internal pathways and you're using concrete, but it does look like you're using something that has a bit of a natural feel to it and some aggregate in it. So I like that, because it looks like you're using something that is a little bit more natural or organic than the regular type of concrete you would see on a sidewalk. Is that correct?
Brad, what's your finish on the sidewalk, on the concrete?
Yeah, that will be a buff wash finish, and we'll do a little. You see that commonly. You'll see it in Confluence Village. It is the material for Scioto Mile. I want to point out. We've had really good luck with it. It does expose some. It's not an exposed aggregate. I don't want to go that far that you see pebble, but you do see a light aggregate natural tint to it.
Okay.
Soft.
Any other?
That's great.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jana.
Oh, I was going to say that's great. And my last comment was where you have the plaza area with the benches, it looks like that at some point could be a good place for some type of public art. It just seems like there's some open space there and it might lend itself to that and enliven that area.
You know, we can always come back, you know, if somebody at some point in time decides, gee, that's a good place for public art. You know, it gives everybody a chance to build the thing, step back, look at it. And for me, I would certainly be open to that down the road if somebody comes back with that. But I think with respect to this application, we don't need to try to build that in at this point.
Right, just a suggestion for the future.
Good point. Anybody else have a?
Thanks, Jana.
Ted, oh, Ted's stepping out. Tony, Mike.
I think it looks really great.
We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so I guess Danny gets the honor of the motion, and Tony is the second. Any other questions or comments? I am not trying to rush this.
It's going to be awesome.
Everybody ready to go? All those
Yep.
say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. Okay, that motion carries. Brad, I think, done your job today.
Hey, and so has the commission. Thank you all. I know you have a full agenda. Thanks for letting us on.
Well, and I know you've been in here about 3 times. We appreciate that, and this is going to it'll be spectacular. So, thank you very much. Okay, next case, please.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
You too.
You too.
So, DC 20-07-010-375 West State Street. The applicant is proposing 3 art locations for the recently approved Scioto Peninsula parking garages. Excuse me. The commission approved the garages at the June meeting with the condition that the applicant return for lighting, signage, and consideration of art, color, or other treatment along State Street. The applicant will be the point working for the city, Scioto Peninsula developers, Scioto Art Commission, and/or any other appropriate entities to curate, install, and maintain the public art. The art will be paid for and maintained by either the existing Starling Street Garage Design Build Contract or Scioto Peninsula TIF, and/or the Scioto Peninsula NCA. So the feedback from the commission at the last meeting was that the integration of art should be considered, that they could consider something colorful or interesting, perhaps lighting up the 2 towers on State Street, and the opportunity exists to improve the gateway with something colorful and tasteful, something that drew you to the area and engaged you. The art will be located along the State Street connector to East Franklinton. There will be 1 mural on the southern parking garage measuring 106 square feet, and 2 murals on the northern parking garage measuring 132 square feet. The guidelines state that the integration of art in larger development projects is encouraged. Planning feels there could be more art as part of this proposal. However, the applicant has modified their submission based off of the commission's input and is generally consistent with their conditions. This is the location, the connector here with State Street, and that's it.
Okay, very good. Who's the applicant today, please?
Mr. Chairman, Mark Hours, an applicant for the owner.
Mark, would you raise your right? Mark, I'm not seeing Mark. Is he there somewhere?
Sorry, I'm listed as Carrie Ann. I'm using my wife's laptop right now.
Okay, oh, there you are. Carrie Ann, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. You said yes, is that right?
Yes, correct. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. We've seen the project. Let's focus on if there are any tweaks to this, any kind of new input, and let's see if we can get this thing put to bed. Go ahead.
Outstanding. Louis, do you have yeah, there you go. The street art application. Thank you. If you could just go through the slides. So this is an updated rendering of the gateway to the East Franklinton area. You can see the railroad trestle in the distance. We have added 3 panels for street art at the pedestrian level. There is one in the left-hand part of the image on the south structure, and then there are 2 on the north structure. They're staggered so that as you drive or walk down the street, you'll be able to experience all 3 of them independently. They are, each of the art panels will be face brick, so that if the art's ever being changed out, it will be an attractive facade behind there. There is also integrated lighting being provided over top of each artwork piece.
Is that face brick, is that recessed?
Correct. The face between the piers will be recessed.
Okay, how much roughly?
3 inches.
Oh, 3 inches. Interesting. Okay, go ahead.
Louis, if you could go to the next slide, please. So these are the elevations. This is Butterfly. The south structure is on your left. The north structure is on your right. So as you can see with the ingress and egress points at the garage, we don't have a whole lot of opportunities to infill and still allow the garage to be an open air parking garage. So we've tried to carefully curate where the 3 locations for the art could be. And you can see them here in the elevations. Next slide, please. So this show.
1 second. Would you go back to that one then? The last slide, Louis. No, the one after that. Yeah, there. Now, and the reason I'm asking this, there you go. This shows the lighting on the on the back end of the thing, really. Okay. Is there any lighting on the towers towards the front of the buildings? On those large towers? There we go on the left there.
There is no exterior lighting on the towers. The towers will be internally illuminated stairs.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And the facade lighting is our next application on the agenda.
The which is?
Our facade lighting is the next application.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Sure. So, Louis, if you could flip to the line drawings show the sizes for the art locations. So this is the south structure. It's over 100 square feet in size, and that gives you a good representation of the face brick when the art is either down or being replaced. And if we could slide over to the north structure. The panel in the corner is 132 square feet, and in the larger panel, which is closer to the street intersection, is over 180 square feet. And that drawing can show you there's linear lighting, very small profile to illuminate these surfaces. I also want to note that the Columbus Downtown Development Corp is going to run point for securing the artists or the artwork for these locations for the city of Columbus. And we will apply with the artwork when we have the artists line up.
Commission then?
Yes.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
I think that's all I have to say about the art. Right now, it could either be stretched fabric or it could be an applied vinyl is what we're thinking to go over the brick. But I think the artist may have some say about the medium that we use.
I'd say if they're coming back to us, we don't need to get too deeply into that today.
Understood.
Are there, with respect to this application, then, are there any questions from the commission for Mark?
No, I think this is Danny. Is there any type of protection against graffiti in terms of these? I asked that question by virtue of the fact that when we prepared the culture wall and the bus shelters, they were somewhat inside of a panel to make sure that graffiti was not an issue.
Yeah. We haven't proposed anything to protect the outside of them yet, but given the fact that these are meant to be interchangeable, if they were ever to be defaced, they could be reproduced.
Okay.
Are there other questions?
Yeah, Mark, does this have to go to the art commission because it's public or semi-public building?
That is an interesting question. I hadn't considered that. That may be the case. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I hadn't considered that.
Yes, they would.
Standpoint of us saying yes or no on, I think we're looking at architecture. We're looking at panels for it and
Yeah.
So any other questions? Is there a motion?
I move approval.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second, please?
Second,
Okay, Bob and Jana. Any other questions or anything more from Louis or Mark or anybody? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thanks. Big improvement. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it looks good.
So we're next.
Okay, sit right there. And you're already sworn in then.
Yes, sir.
So, who was the person who passed that motion or presented the motion?
That motion came from Bob, and the second.
and I seconded.
Second was Jana, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And there
case
was a
number
unanimous
7.
vote.
Okay. Thank you. 375 West State Street, same location. They are returning to the Commission for graphics and lighting packages as requested by the Downtown Commission for the parking garages. For the north garage, they're proposing a wall sign along Capitol Street and 2 projecting signs and a wall sign along State Street. For the south garage, they're proposing 2 projecting signs and a wall sign along State Street. The details are below.
You know what? I think we've seen it and we've already kind of read through that. Louis, why don't we just skip to the applicant? Are there any, or Louis, you can opine on this too. Are there any anything new or different than what they brought in originally here?
I don't remember there being many lighting details on the first one.
Where we were, Mark, do you remember?
That's correct. We did not show any facade lighting in our first application. So we're back today for the signage, which is minimal, and our facade lighting, which is meant to just highlight the brick piers of the
If
building.
you can walk us through that quickly and we'll go where we go here.
Yeah, sure. So this is a representation of each of our ingress and egress points on the structures. So we'll have 3 applications of this where there is there's a address sign, house numbers. There's also a projecting sign for a symbol, and then there will also be a traffic count system that will show how many parking spaces are available in each structure. Next slide, please.
And there's stainless steel letters for the address.
The pin-mounted address sign will be stainless steel pin-mounted.
Okay.
This is just showing the other ingress and egress points in elevation. Next slide, please. So these are precedent examples. The P and the addresses that you see on the left are almost a one-to-one example of what we're proposing, and then the examples on the right.
Do we know who's kind of chatting with us here, Chris? Okay, good. I think we're hearing you.
The examples on the right, parking count examples.
Chris, is there anybody that we can mute here? Do we need to? Christopher Lohr?
I think we're okay. Danny, it looks like you're on twice, which might be the issue.
Danny, we love you, but you don't get 2 votes.
Louis, you can go to the next slide, please.
Go ahead.
So that series of slides represents the signage. It's really just minimal at the ingress and egress points. And then from a building lighting perspective, these elevations represent where we've got building lighting. For the most part, the facade lighting is just either up lighting or down lighting or both to highlight the brick piers. You're also seeing, of course, we'll have pole lighting on the roof to illuminate the top deck, which is pretty standard on a parking garage. Next slide, please. That's the south structure you're seeing now. These are the examples of the lights. So the example on the left is the sconce that will be on the brick piers that will provide the uplighting, downlighting, or both. The light on the right is the light that we will use to illuminate the artwork that you previously approved.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide, please. And then these are the lights for the parking structure themselves. So the pole lights, they're very low profile pole lights with cutoffs. So we won't get much light pollution.
And it shines down. That's really good. That's really, okay.
I think that's it. The page.
Is that it, Mark?
I believe so.
This is pretty straightforward. And by the way, I think it, to me, it's what we look for on a parking garage. We're not trying to make a statement out of it, but it's really, frankly, I think elegantly done, and we're dealing with washes, and so it's not going to look like a used car lot. So I like it. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
Mark, I have a quick question for you. For the north garage, is the vehicle entry from Capitol? Is it from state?
It's both. So there is an ingress and egress point on both ends of the north structure, but only on the State Street side of the south structure. So we have three total ingress and egress points and 3 locations for those signs.
Okay, so the parking sign, the blade parking sign, you will have those for the north garage. You will have that both on the north and the south.
That's correct, and they're staggered so that they're not across the street from one another. They'll be catty corner from one another.
Oh no, I meant the garage itself. Will that have a blade sign at the Capitol entrance as well as the state entrance?
It will, yes.
Okay.
Are there any other?
Thank you.
What's the pleasure of the group?
I move for approval.
Second.
That's Mike Lusk, and the second is
Bob.
Bob. Okay, any other questions or comments? Anything else from Lewis? Anything else from Mark? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries unanimously then, Lewis. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mark. Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Next, 66 East Main Street. This is the JC building. The location on the map. So you're probably familiar with it. It has its main entrance down on Main Street.
Chris, could you pick up a little bit? Hard time hearing.
Hearing me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is the JC Arms Apartments. As you can see, this is their layout. Recently, this parcel right here was split off, and the entire southern section of this parcel was split off as well for future development. I visited the site. Here are the site images. So here's the building. See its location. This is along Rich Street. This is along East Main Street on the south. And this is where they're proposing to put in some mechanical equipment between the building and Rich Street to the north. This would be the location of the emergency generator that they want to install. And here's some of the spaces around the area that they have, green spaces. This is a dumpster enclosure near where they want to install the mechanical equipment, which is right next to their entrance to Rich Street. This is on Rich Street. And here's a space to the west of the site where we propose the mechanical equipment could go. So as I said, they want to install an emergency generator. And while this can usually be staff approved, guidelines state the mechanical system should be placed on the roof or behind buildings and screened as necessary by walls, fencing, or plantings. The generator will measure 9 feet, 6 inches long, 3 feet, 5 inches wide, and 5 feet, 11 inches high. It will be screened by a double row of giant Arborvitae. So the applicant correctly states that it is technically the rear of the structure, but the site is based on a 1970s development style, which would no longer be supported. Planning feels the way the north elevation interacts with Rich Street warrants consideration and can be approved upon via incremental measures. The guidelines stress that designs should create pedestrian interest and interaction and should be influenced by the pattern of nearby buildings. Most of the surrounding buildings in the vicinity address Rich Street and don't have mechanical equipment between the buildings and the right-of-way. So therefore, the proposal does not meet the guidelines with regards to setback, design, and site work.
Okay.
Louis, could you go back to the site plan, please? And started to say that the site's been split off for future development. Can you show us that?
Sure. Give me a moment here. So essentially, I think we spoke about this at the last meeting. A parcel was split off right here. So this is now a separate parcel. And I'm not exactly sure where the line is, but it's pretty much right through the middle of the site. This whole southern area recently was split off for future development. And I discussed this with the applicant at one point, the building manager, and they do have plans to redevelop the southern portion of the site.
Do we have a site plan of where they want to put this generator and a picture of it? And
sure, yeah, let me pull
Yeah.
it up here.
Is that a house just to the east of the building?
that was that little building they showed us a picture of there, I think. It's a little brick building, 1 story. I don't know what it does, what the function is.
No, it's not a house. That's kind of like, I think, a mechanical building, or maybe it's a pavilion. I'm not exactly sure. So here's the site. This is where the generator is going to go.
Up in the front on the street?
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. They consider that the rear of their building. So we indicated it should either go on this side or over on this side would be ideal.
Yeah, why don't they just put it on one side or the, oh, it's, I'm gonna guess it's because it's got access to wherever their electric is on the inside of the building. That's what they're doing.
We have an applicant here if they want.
I think it ought to be on the side of the building too. Frankly, it's ridiculous to put it along, whether they call that the front or not.
Do we want to let the applicant speak?
Yes, who is Tanya?
Yeah, my name is Tanya. I'm with the Barkus Company. We are the security management company on behalf of the owners.
Okay, is there anybody else for the applicants? Tanya, would you raise your right hand?
Searching for
Do you swear and affirm? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony about the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So say I do.
I do.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Well, I will answer the quick question. The structure there that looks like a house, that is a maintenance shop and mechanical room as well.
Okay.
Oh.
So there's a question.
Perfect place for a generator.
Put in the side of the building, the Main Street side of the building.
So if we were to go ahead, the biggest problem on either locations that are being proposed is we would be blocking fire entrances to fuel and to maintenance the equipment. So if you can see there in the circle, the roundabout, that's our front entrance of the building. So we had a generator there to the left of that, with us looking at the Starling. That's our fire space. So fire trucks would not be able to pull in. We would be blocking that space as well. You have the same issue in terms of next to the maintenance shop. We do not have the ability to reach that to fill that with the fuel, the diesel fuel that's required to keep the generator going. So those are.
I can't stop at the street and run a line in to fill it?
From Main Street? From the parking area. So we're. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
What's the street at the top? Is that Rich?
Rich.
Yeah. So if you put the generator over by the maintenance building, why can't it be filled from Rich Street?
Well, the other issue there is the water access. The water access is in the back there for the fire department. We did have the Columbus City Fire Department come in, and that is where their water access is, right there at the back next to the existing dumpster.
Where is the existing dumpster?
Lewis, if you could go back to those pictures that you had there, we are right back facing Rich Street is where that existing dumpster is. It's currently enclosed in a brick enclosure.
Is it on Rich?
It is, yes.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
That's where our dumpsters are, and that's where our trash collection is. Water access for the fire department is right there as well.
Is that where you would be putting this generator as well then, kind of right where the dumpster is?
It would go right, so basically right behind in between those two bushes that you see on the screen right now.
Oh,
and we would be planting large trees to screen around that.
In effect, it's going right next to the existing dumpster, right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Group. I think we've seen what we've, it's pretty straight. It's 5 feet tall, 10 by 3.
So when that site gets developed on Main Street, will the circle still, will the front door then be converted over to Rich Street? Or what will happen when somebody builds something on that site?
So the board's plan is to build a community space. So then that would be attached to the building and accessible by the residents.
Accessible by what?
Our door will not change. Our entrance will stay where it's at.
Well, how will you get to it if there's a building on that parking lot?
The building, the community room building that they're proposing to be attached to this building won't be in the parking lot. It will be in the existing green space. There will be an exterior entrance as well as an entrance from the building.
I think we're talking about two separate things. There is going to be redevelopment of a parcel on this side right here. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tanya, but I also spoke to someone who indicated that this southern parcel would be, is in the planning stages for redevelopment, and that they plan on having a drive-through area to reach the front door as it currently sits. Is that correct?
Not that I'm aware of right now. I'm only in the know on the community room space. I do know that they did break it into different parcels, but we have not, according to the board, they have not disclosed exactly what they're doing with that third space.
Yeah, nothing's official, Bob, but they indicated to me that there would be a drive-through of any building that was placed on the southern parcel. They would be able to drive through to reach the building still.
Okay, so I still don't understand why this generator can't be put over by the maintenance building. Can you show us a picture of that building, Liz?
And being completely honest, relocating it by that entrance would add, by what we call the shop, the maintenance shop there, would add a cost of $30,000 to $60,000 more, according to Jess Howard, who is our electrician.
What I think, you're located outside your electric room inside the building, so you got to run more cable over. If you put the generators become more remotely located if you put them over by the maintenance things, is where I'm hearing or guessing this is going on this.
Correct.
I'm also wondering where you have it located now, why it's oriented the way it is, and why it isn't oriented like shifted 90 degrees so that it's parallel. If you kept it in that location so that it's parallel to the dumpster area and it's not obstructing as much view from the windows, because it looks like you're landscaping it on the street side, but not on the internal side. And it does look like there are resident windows overlooking it. So I'm wondering if you had to keep it in that location, if you rotated it 90 degrees, I think it would be less obtrusive.
Definitely a possibility that those windows aren't resident apartments, that is a community space that we have there inside the building.
Well, frankly, I think since you've got that dumpster enclosure, it's already there. I mean, that's a given, and that isn't going to change. I think if you snug it right up against that, I would agree with Jana that I would intuitively kind of put it up with the dumpster there, so it sticks out 3 feet instead of 10 or 12 or 15 feet. But other than that, I mean, I think that it's already done. I mean, if we stick it over next to the maintenance thing, you're kind of creating a new space for it. But
What color is this thing? Is it like bright yellow?
It's not. It's a stone gray color. Kind of like, I call it beige, but they call it stone gray.
Okay, that helps.
Well, and I think you're going to have trees around. I'm not sure it's visible, very frankly. And I mean, it's a strange thing. If this thing came into us today, we would not let them we'd figure out another place to put the dumpster to begin with. So you have the building with the thing coming right in off of Rich Street and obscuring an entry. But that's nothing we have any control over. Tell me again, Tanya, why you can't just line it up next to the, in other words, turn it 90 degrees and line it up right next to the dumpster?
I believe that would be an issue. We could work with our electrician to make sure that it was placed in that area versus setting it off as far as we have in the existing plans.
Okay. What's everybody want to do on this? I mean, we can see if we can tell them no and then get them to move it to the maintenance area there or off to the sides, or we can say yes and try to tell them we'll approve it as long as they line it up with the dumpster there.
I think JC Arms, I think they need the generator. I think we should support it. I think because there's other service in that area, if we can move the generator over as Jana suggested, I think I can live with it.
I would be there too.
I agree.
Can we have a motion to that effect then? Who wants to move it?
Yeah, so I move approval of the application subject to or conditioned on moving the generator over, turning it 90 degrees and moving it over next to the dumpster.
Okay, is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I mean, is there an opportunity to, instead of just doing the double row of the green arborvitaes, but to also potentially put in some sort of, permanent screen, some fence or something that has, some level of screening so that when and if one of the plants die, that there's not this thing staring at us from the face of the street?
Okay, this is about permanent screening. What would you see in this case? The fencing that they've got around there, it looks like a kind of a wrought iron fence, black iron. And what do you have around the dumpster enclosure, Tanya? Is that vertical board?
Masonry wall.
Is Tanya still there?
I am. It's currently brick.
Okay. So,
if there was a brick screen wall there that extended from the building, that would look good. Also, just with some black panel fence, just to kind of create that permanent screen. It's probably a lower cost associated with that. And then soften it with the arborvitaes. And I feel like that's the compromise that makes sense related to where it's positioned.
Okay, we have a motion, or now there's a suggestion that we might want to amend that. What's the pleasure of everybody? Do you want to amend it to include what Tony's talking about, or vote on it the way it is, the motion? Any thoughts from anybody? Anything else on that, Bob or Jana or Mike or?
What does the applicant want to do? I mean, are you in favor of that?
We are in favor of putting up a permanent screen if necessary, yes.
Okay.
The only thing I would point out is that, these things do have clearance requirements and requirements for air and so forth. So, they're going to have to, work within those guidelines. I don't know how much
I'm a
room they
little
have.
bit afraid it's going to get bigger as a result of that, Mike.
I tend to agree, yeah.
I think a Snoopy Gray built, piece of equipment stuck in there that's 5 feet tall and 3 feet wide next to that dumpster enclosure that's already there. I'm not sure you're going to drive down the road. And by the way, is Rich Street one way anyway?
Yes.
So it's one way westbound. I mean, this is tucked in around the side of that. I mean, I got to tell you, I don't think you're going to see it. And you put a few bushes around it, and if one of the bushes dies, they get to maintain it. I don't even know if they do rows of them from my standpoint, but that's fine if you want to do it. At any rate,
well, the double rows will help the fact that they won't be full size when they go in. So.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'm not hearing, Tony. I'm not hearing. I'm not a lot of push on your thought on that. So I'm going to ask for a vote on this, and unless what's the group want to do? Do you want to keep massaging it, or are we all set to vote?
Let's vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Is that an opposed? And are you in favor?
No, that was, yeah, I just was a little late. Sorry.
All right. Okay. I think that motion carried then. Louis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. We've got one more.
Actually, I believe we skipped C8 in the shuffle there, so we have to go back and do C8. Which is 21 East State Street. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare the applicant there. So what they want is graphics and lighting portion of the exterior modifications approved in June 2020.
Yes.
We already saw this case. You're familiar with it. We approved it last month, so I won't get into it too much. But the proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to lighting and graphics.
Okay. Who's the applicant?
Hello, this is Beverly Eichenlob from MBBJ representing the project, and I also have two colleagues with me who can speak to some more specifics should you have questions.
Sorry, you said your name is Beverly?
Beverly Eichenlob,
Fine.
project manager.
You and your colleagues then raise your right hand, please. Hands. Okay, and identify yourself. We've got Beverly and Jonathan.
Should be Norm.
And Norman.
Jonathan Hogue and Norman I.
Correct.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. I do.
Why don't you take it from here? And again, we've seen this project. We're all very familiar. Kind of talk about what's new for us today and what specifically you want to get approved, if you would.
Yes, I think it would be beneficial, Louis, if you would mind just fairly quickly, but not too quickly, just scrolling through the presentation, because both the signage and the lighting are shown in many of the renderings, and then we can kind of come back and talk about them in more specifics. So yeah, you can just kind of move through, 5 seconds at a time, just to give everybody an overview. We are doing signage and graphics at State Street and at High Street. And so I think by looking at the entire presentation, probably a little faster, you'll get a sense of kind of how the two relate to each other. And again, we can come back and address specifics once you get a sense of just the overall approach. I think that's the last or second to last slide, right? So if you want to go back to, oh, sorry, my apologies. If you want to go back to some of the renderings toward the front, we can look at, we could take it from State Street and then High Street. So again, at State Street, again, previously we looked at the design for the canopies, and what we're showing today is the integration of signage and lighting. So you can see here we're proposing signage at the sides of the entry piece as well as at the center of the entry piece. And then we're showing lighting incorporated into the canopy in this location, as well as some uplights inside the vestibule area. I'm sorry, not the vestibule, but the sheltered area there at the entry. Perhaps if you go to the next slide, you'll see the night. So you can see.
So is that a continuous like LED strip that's recessed in the canopy? Is that what we're seeing?
It is a continuous strip that is recessed in the canopy, yes. And then the lighting that is, I'm sorry, the signage that is proposed at the entry where it says Fifth Third Center, that is internally illuminated signage. The signage that says 21 East State Street is not internally illuminated. It is basically capturing the light from the lighting that is below. And again, that is similarly a linear fixture that is recessed into the ground. Can continue forward.
I think can we talk about this sure. One before we go to the other side of the building?
Well, let me just mention one more thing, which is that as part of this, we are also proposing a monument sign, which you can see in this view, as well as 2 sconces on the columns. So yes, please.
I think the 21 East State Street is disturbing sideways like that. I also think it's going to be hard for somebody looking for 21 East State Street to find it. I think you'd be much better off with a 21, you know, like on the piers underneath the wall sconces. I just think that's. I think it's just disturbing. It doesn't work to me very well at pedestrian level or at vehicular level, or for the mailman. The rest of it seems fine.
It is intended to be more for the vehicular level, and we are showing it at both sides of the entry so that from either direction it would be visible. And our intent with the signage is to be subtle. So that's, you know, for us, having it a bit understated is definitely part of the goal.
Is it lit, illuminated, those letters?
The ones at the side are not illuminated. The ones that are the center building title, Fifth Third Center, are illuminated. Similarly, there is internal illumination in the monument sign.
So when
to the letters.
Does the monument sign have 21 on it?
No.
Street number?
I don't know that offhand. We have to look at the detail of it.
Thing at the top of it.
There we go. It has the title of the building, and then you know, whatever tenants would be part of the facility. Those are changeable lettering bars.
Illuminated then, right?
Correct.
Okay, on the monument sign. Now, on the vertical sign on the entryway, are those, you say they're not illuminated? Are they? How are they? What kind of material are they?
We're having them spec'd as brushed aluminum, and they will be lit by the downlight from the canopies.
And the uplight from sort of having them grazed from the lighting below.
Okay. Go ahead.
I have a comment too on this facade, if that's okay. If we could look at the canopies again. My comment is that I've always, since this has been presented, I've always been struggling with these shape of the canopies and the placement of the canopies. But, and I know we talked about maybe trying to drop them a little bit and seeing how that would look if maybe from a distance you can still see the arches. But I find now with the new strip integrated lighting that it just seems to, I don't know, accentuate that shape. And I really think it seems that strip lighting seems to work against the building. So I'm wondering if in terms of that lighting that you have for the canopies, if you had thought about other designs or just, let's say, pin little recessed cans or something, because I just feel like now your eye just comes up to that square shape, the square shape, to negate the rest of the building, you know, the aesthetic of the building, the arches and other designs that are intrinsic in the building. That's just my feeling about it. I just feel like you're interested in introducing more vocabulary, different vocabulary, and I think it just gets a little busy. So I'm just wondering what you think of that.
I think one of the reasons I wanted to look at the entire presentation to start with is to show that we're trying to create a dialogue between what's happening at the entry and what's happening along High Street. So we're actually trying to be consistent by using linear lighting that we think is subtle and does actually reinforce the architecture. And we think it's a bit more contemporary in its presentation than a sort of recessed downlight.
Beverly, we've heard that comment from Jana. Why don't you go ahead though and continue? We did interrupt you, so
it's okay.
Beg your pardon. Let's go ahead and keep going.
Sure. If we want to just go ahead and move over to High Street, we can talk about that a little bit as well. So again, you can see similarly where we're showing the portals you're familiar with, and then we've introduced a recessed downlight, again, a thin linear fixture that is integrated into part of the portal itself. And then we also have signage options for tenants to have blade signs, which are not internally illuminated. They are similar to what we have proposed at the entry sides, where they're metals, there are letters that basically will capture and reflect light. Our thought is that there'll be enough light coming out of retail spaces that we don't need additional lighting for those signs as well. And then if you move forward a bit, you can see where the other option or the next option. So these come in 3 different options for tenants. Again, we're trying to provide some opportunity for variation for particular graphics that each tenant might need, but at the same time keeping it within the framework of a consistent look. We move to the next slide. And then the other layer of signage that is an option, again, an option for tenants, is to have a sign that it will be internally illuminated, sorry, over the entry door to each of the tenant spaces.
Is that in addition to the light sign or instead of the light sign?
It's an option for them to do both or one or the other. That's the current, the desire of our client is to basically have a lot of flexibility for tenants with regard to signage, but at the same time to do it in a way that is providing consistency and a kind of clean look to the overall aesthetic of the building.
One of the things that we always kind of, I think, look for and think about is whether something begins to get too much, too busy. So would your thought be that you would come back on these specific signs then?
Yeah, the tenants, when they, again, we've been asked to do design guidelines, and the specific retail tenants would come back, yes.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, we could say, you know what, you come in and ask for 4 signs, you may only need 2 or 1.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I mean,
yeah, I would say we're looking to have.
When I look at any one of these given ones, I think they look nice. Okay, and I think the kind of compact size is good.
Yeah.
And I also like the variation in the sizes, but they kind of relate to each other. But again, if you could come in and I could see a situation where I might think it's too much in this specific. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what we're looking for today is really approval that the intent for what we've proposed as signage is acceptable, and again, the specifics of what these signs are will be on a case-by-case basis with each individual tenant.
So today, what you want is approval of the lighting treatment for the entries, really. Is that correct? And then
the facade, yes.
And the blade sign on the street, monument sign, and then the I guess the addresses and so on at the end.
Yeah, lighting and signage. That's correct. But the signage that goes with the building is on State Street, and the signage that goes with retail tenants is on High Street. So
And when you say lighting, you're talking about lighting in the entry, which is
The strip lighting that's up above the recesses on High Street,
yes,
as well as the canopy lighting at the main entry.
that's correct.
Show me those, the recesses on High Street. I'm missing that one.
Right there at the top.
Right there.
Okay. Okay. So that's what you want to get approved for today. We're really talking conceptually, I guess, about signs then. We're
talking conceptually about signs as it relates to High Street.
I think what we can do is approve the design guidelines for the signs, subject to the actual designs coming in for, I don't know, I think it could be staff approval if it meets the guidelines.
Okay.
You could always check to make sure they meet those parameters that have been set at this meeting.
Fine, we can do that. Does someone want to make a motion to that effect?
I have one more question. The pylon sign out front, has that been, that's in the right of way, right? Have you been working with the city on that?
Yeah, we are in the process of obtaining a permit for that. So yes, we're working with the city.
You obviously can't install it if you don't get a permit for it. So
that's correct.
So we're not, I think we'll let you work that out.
Well, we approve signage like this. I just, it's subject to the city right of way also.
Yeah.
I think all of this is terrific except for the 21 East State Street, which I just think is awful. It's just beautiful everything else, and I think that, to me, that's just really disturbing and not functional.
It doesn't do much for me either. I wouldn't do it. And I think the one thing that's kind of strange is if you're going westbound, it kind of goes down from the top down, and if you're coming eastbound, it's going to go from the bottom up. And I don't know. I think it would be more elegant if you just had a 21 right on either one of the columns or both on either side of the front entry, and go from there. I would agree on that.
The applicant willing to make that change?
The applicant is willing to take this back to the client and get their get their thoughts. We have actually run through quite a few different scenarios with them. Some of them were simply 21. Some of them had additional information. We've looked at opportunities where we might do the address on one side and do Fifth Third Center on the other, just again to further minimize the signage. Yes, we're content to come back with that portion of signage for final approval. But we are really hoping to get approval for the lighting.
Okay, can I suggest this? Let's approve their request for lighting, okay? Solely for lighting and for the monument sign. And that would not include, and it would include the Fifth Third Center lighting in the front of the main front panel there, front alcove. It would not include the 21 East State Street vertical sign. Does that make sense? And we'll approve it. And then the lighting on the High Street side.
And the design guidelines for the High Street side.
Design guidelines for the High Street retail signs. Will
Yeah.
someone make a motion to that effect?
Steve, this is Danny. I was debating whether to say anything at all in regard to the 21 State Street sign. Even though I've got GPS, when I'm looking for a building, the first thing if I was turning the corner or even crossing High Street going east, the first thing I would see was Fifth Third Center. I'm looking for an address, but I don't see a number. The Fifth Third Center stands out. This other one, I would never even see it by virtue of the fact that Fifth Third Center is far more dominant than the 21. However, if there was just a 21, I would know where I was. So
okay, well,
that's just
consistent
me
with
driving.
That's consistent with what I'm proposing as what we're proposing as a motion then. Okay. And then
I'll give it a shot, Steve.
you would just come back then with, we're thinking about the street numbers. I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
So I make a motion that we approve the lighting on both State Street and High Street as proposed. The Fifth Third Center signage, the pylon sign as proposed, and the guidelines as proposed for the signage on High Street. And the applicant be asked to come back with a solution to the street address, the required street address signage.
Okay, and there's a second. Danny, you seconded, right? Okay, Louis.
Dan second, yes.
Okay, Beverly, do you understand what we're doing? Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Anything from anybody in the audience? Anything from the applicant? Hearing nothing.
I just had a quick comment. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate everything you've done in this project, and I really understand that you want to make it modern and sleeker, and I really think you've made good choices. However, I just feel that there's a bit of a disconnect between the building itself and some of these, forms you've chosen and the design itself. So I just wanted to mention that to you, that while I appreciate it, I feel like there's been a disconnect between the two that has disturbed me from the beginning. So I just wanted to let you know.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, so that's one vote in opposition. The other ones, that motion carries, Louis. Okay, any other business for us? I need to sign off. Are there any more applications then, Louis? Or?
2 more cases.
2 more?
Oh, I've got to go also.
Okay, Bob, can you handle these for us?
I think Otto's on the line if he wants to do it. Otherwise, I will.
I haven't heard from Otto all day. Otto, yes. Otto? Louis, would you either have Otto, I need to run for an appointment. Would you either have Otto handle it or Bob?
That's almost 11 o'clock.
And let's do the rest of these
Okay.
cases. Okay, good. Thank you.
Let's go ahead.
Thanks, folks.
Sure. Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Thanks, Danny.
Everybody's help.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on. So C10, construction of a skywalk over Starling Street. So the garages were approved, the residential structure was approved, and they're proposing a skywalk to connect the two. The skywalk was not part of the previous presentation, so we've asked them to return. The details are in the staff report. The guidelines state where a skywalk is supported, its design and color should be such that it is muted, sides be at least 50% transparent, and its overall presence subdued so as not to draw attention to itself. The proposal generally meets the guidelines with regards to skywalk, although staff has some concern as to whether the design is subdued and does not draw attention to itself. We all know the location, so I won't waste your time with that, but here is the plans. Is it going to be Bob or Otto who's going to be leading?
I'll do it.
It's better you view, Bob. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, what can we have an explanation from Brad or somebody about? Oh, we need to swear Brad in, right?
Swear, yeah.
And is anybody else with you, Brad?
Michael Johnson with Flaherty Collins is also joining me today, and Heather Rother, who's with Archall as well.
Okay, would you all raise your right hand, and the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth. If so, say I do.
I do.
I do.
Great, thank you. Brad, can you describe this monstrous thing to us? It looks like the apartment building is eating the parking garage.
So in the in our original submission last month, in talking about the bigger buildings, there was the Sky Bridge connecting the north parking garage or the south parking garage to building 1 of this development. The preliminary design that we received from MVVJ was sort of this, basically a tube structural steel truss that was sort of cladded with corrugated metal on the outside, and had it was very similar to the bridge that is down on 80 on the Commons as well, in its sort of shape and form. So we took that, and we've been working with the location on hitting the parking garage, and sort of expanded a little bit. We added, so this is a little bit similar to what they had shown. They did change the form of it a little bit. So I think that's really where the inspiration was drawn off of sort of that, keeping an open air structure, and just really making this a bridge only for the tenants for this development. Okay, so it's corrugated metal, which is similar to materials that are found on the building 02, the steel tube truss, along with sort of lighting detail that mimics the sort of X-bracing that's available in the truss, and then in just a simple guardrail passing through. So it's kind of where
the color of it, Brad? The color.
So the color. So going along with the dark color that's on the bridge or on the garage, the parking garage. So we're looking. So it's like a charcoal, okay, and then you have sort of these white lights that go through at those angles. So it's a linear light. This is a 6-inch linear light, similar to what was on the facade of Gravity. And so you can see the light intensity of what that is, and kind of what we're doing here.
Comments, questions by the commissioners?
I had a comment. I really like this form very much, and I really appreciate the care that you took to make a very interesting and unique design. And my only real comment about it is, because of the prefabricated panels and they seem to be solid, it does have a heaviness. If I don't have any perforations in them, because when you showed the example of the Rich Street Bridge, it looks like there's a lightness when it's actually, constructed, because you can see through it. There's a translucency, and I'm wondering how solid that material is, and if it will look predominantly like large metal structure, or if there will be some, some translucency to it.
Yeah, this was to be a little bit more solid than that was the one that's down on downtown. So it's a little bit more enclosed, and so it really starts to reveal. It changes the experience as you walk across the 55 feet here, where there's like sort of pockets of windows, either north or south here. So it's a little bit different experience than an all perforated. The desire by the client is obviously keep, weather, a solid roof, so that moisture doesn't come on the walking surface and build up.
I'm just wondering, let's say, if there are any of those panels, like, you have a panel that looks more like a wall panel, and it's it's bisected by the LED lighting. And I'm wondering if, let's say, any of those panels, maybe one of them could be glass, just to lighten it up a little bit and get a little bit, so it doesn't look as massive. So that would be my suggestion or comment on it.
Okay.
Is there a section going across the bridge?
Yeah, if you go that one, that's probably your best detail. It's a fixed connection at the building 1, and then at the parking garage, and then it's an expansion joint.
No, I'm sorry. Is there a section going across the walkway that shows kind of the shape of the roof?
Yeah, Bob. It changes. It's sort of every section is different along the way because of the form of it.
And you've done something to make sure it's not going to blow away, right? Looks like it's safe.
Right. Yeah, and it's not gonna blow away. No.
Anybody else have comments? Mike?
Yeah, I'm trying to get my arms around it. I kind of share Jana's concern for its heaviness. It just seems very massive.
Would it help if we looked at the one on Rich Street again?
Give me a second here.
I think it's on Rich Street, wherever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, but that is perforated metal, isn't it?
That is perforated.
And some of those panels were perforated, particularly the side panels.
I think that would lighten it up considerably.
Okay.
Because if we visualize this picture that we're looking at here, and if that was all solid, I think that would really change the experience.
Yeah.
And you can still keep the roof solid, but like we were saying, maybe some of the side panels could be, Mike was saying, perforated. I think that would be a good compromise.
Yeah, I'm really trying to create it so that it's like a folding plane. So maybe it's a kind of combination of perforated and the solid that folds down. So in our configuration, so I can study it.
I think that would be fine.
Okay.
So what's the pleasure? Can we approve it with that condition and maybe have it sent around to us when Brad figures it out? I'd like to keep it moving if we can.
Yeah, I'm okay with that if no one else has objection.
Motion for approval with the addition of the perforated panels, and then have staff okay that.
Is that your motion, Tony?
Yep.
It works for me. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. Does anybody have any further comments or questions? Brad, does that work for you?
Yep, that's fine. Michael, any comments from you?
No, that works.
From ownership? Okay.
Good.
Okay, we'll call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Brad.
Have a great day.
Point of clarification, are we looking for all sides to be perforated or just a portion of the sides?
No, a portion of them.
Just a portion.
Okay.
A portion of them.
Okay. All right. So the last case we have then, finally got there. So D1, this is for conceptual review. I'm going to read this staff report pretty thoroughly because it's kind of complex. It's at 530 East Rich Street, and the applicant is proposing construction of a 4-story with loft, 30-unit multifamily development in the East Town Street Historic District. The applicant will also be seeking a variance to reduce the size of the proposed parking spaces from 9 feet by 18 feet to 8.5 feet by 17 feet. So this is the location on 530 East Rich Street. The HRC has looked at this, but we conduct our own independent review, as you know. And so there are these 2 historic buildings in the front, these later additions to the rear, which are not historic in nature, but these rear sections of the building right here and right here are considered historic. And they're proposing, they're considered historic by our historic preservation staff in the planning division. They're proposing to remove these 2 sections in the rear and to remove this connector, which I think we're okay with the removal of the connector. So the building they are proposing will sit directly behind a pair of 2-story historic buildings on Rich Street and will result in the demolition of the rear portions of these buildings. The Downtown Commission and Historic Resources Commission has approved several modern multifamily developments in the area similar to this. Historic preservation staff has indicated the rear portions of the main structures are either original or historic and should be preserved. The West House generally retains its historic footprint from 1899, while rear additions on the East House date to 1901 or earlier. The front porches were added to both buildings between 1901 and 1921. It's the intent of the guidelines to encourage the preservation of downtown's building stock. Adaptive reuse of existing buildings is generally preferable to demolition and new construction. However, consideration should be given to new developments which are of greater significance to the character of the surrounding area. New construction should be influenced by the pattern of nearby contributing buildings. Site location has a bearing on appropriate building size, height, design, but deeper sites can accommodate larger elements. Building materials used should be of high quality and durability, and concrete block is generally not appropriate. Staff has concerns about the demolition of portions of the historic structures and the use of split face block, concrete block, ground level. And I did do a site visit here. I can show you some more detailed pictures of the buildings that we were discussing. So this is the front of the east building. This is the west building. You can see the connector here between that was added at a later date, which is going to be removed. This is the rear portion. My understanding is this whole portion of the east building will be removed. This is the west building. This whole portion will be removed. This stairwell here is not historic in nature. That is actually cinder block. This is the back. These buildings in the rear will be removed, as will these buildings be removed. And this is the connector that will also be removed. And that's the rear of the two buildings. And with that, let me pull up the proposal here. So I can show you what they're proposing before we start discussing it. Demolition. This is going to be the demolition of the structures. The hashed areas is what's going to be demolished. And they're proposing this building to go up behind the two buildings. That I can pass it over to the applicant.
So who's here for the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Shannon. We also have participating Jamie Oberschlake from Schiff Capital, Randy Black, our preservation consultant, and Joe Sullivan will be doing the majority of our presentation.
Okay, would all of you please, I can only see some of you. Would all of you raise your right hand, please, and swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth. And so please say, I do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you. So, Joe, you want to go ahead and present?
Am I, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The demolition portion of this, and I came in, was not actually the original architect that was involved in this project concept when it started with the HRC. But my understanding is that the HRC visited the site and was okay with the portions of demolition that are proposed, and that was the portion to remain when our firm was engaged to look at this project. There was an earlier concept that could not be built, had some code issues and other things, and we were brought on to solve that. And the main roof structures, I feel was appropriate to maintain those where it turned into a portion in behind and didn't have a contributing aspect to the streetscape. I felt that were the less important parts of this building, and felt that was appropriate. On the east building, it appears that the first floor was original, and that on the rear, and that there was a second floor portion added at a later time. And on the west building, that leg of the back does appear like that was original, where it's about 12 feet extending north of the main roof structure that we're proposing to remove so that we could construct the new building. The earlier proposal actually maintained the connector between the two homes And when we got involved, we felt like it made sense to eliminate that connector so that the two homes could read as individual homes on Rich Street. I don't believe that the colors that we are proposing for those are in your or in the packet. One of the recommendations that came from the HRC would be to treat them differently, and I agreed with that. I felt like that's was a good observation. So we're actually going to come back, with when we do the final, we would show the colors. They would be somewhat muted but stronger in value, so that we get a contrast with the white trim on the building. As you see in the photos, both of the buildings are all white at this point. We would paint the brick a contrasting color that is darker, and each one would be different for the two homes. So that's kind of my understanding on the demolition side of this, that we're keeping the really important components of the two homes, and we're turning them back into a residential use when they were office uses. And that gave us enough room to construct a new building that has, it's a podium building, meaning the first level is a parking structure. Then it has basically 3.5 levels above that, 3 stories plus a loft for some of the top floor units. The units are oriented north and south with kind of a light well in the which is open to the center, so that we could have the more private areas of the homes, the bedrooms facing that internal courtyard side, and all the living spaces face north and south, where we will have controlled airspace and views permanently. On the north side, they will actually get some views of Topiary Park. And on the south side, looking over the 2 residences, and then to the further to the south. Regarding the split face block, we have used split face in numerous historic neighborhoods throughout the city where it's a foundation material. We feel, given the scale of this building as the 3.5 story, that the first level is treated as a foundation, and it's not straight concrete block, it's a split face block that has a stone texture, then a limestone cap at the top separating it from the brick which we're carrying around the structure. The porches that were added have a cinder block, kind of that pillowed cinder block foundation. So it is a material that was used consistently for lower level elements, and we feel like that the lower level of this building, it is appropriate use of that material. And it's in, I apologize, the renderings, I don't think from a color standpoint are as accurate as the material boards attached. But we've had very good luck with that material used as a base. And then the rest of the project would be brick. So the building has a base, a middle, and a top. And we've introduced the cementitious panels and siding. And we have dormer windows on the two major gables, as well as around the pitched roof, which is a hip roof consistent with buildings in the vicinity, and that are the half story is within the attic space of the pitched roof. So this project has some similarity to one that we did at Whittier and High Street next to Planks called Treetops. That was a very successful development in the German Village area, and I think is now referred to as a good example of how to maintain existing structures on a major street and then construct a building of higher density behind that has very little impact from the pedestrian level at the street side. So we're interested in getting your feedback.
So just to be clear, this is a conceptual review, is that correct?
Correct.
So this is a good time for commissioners to make comments. I'm going to make one to start, and that is the demolition, the partial demolition of these two houses in the rear is not very well defined at all in the submittal, so it's really difficult to tell. The pictures have helped, I think, me to understand what pieces and parts you're proposing to eliminate, but it isn't clear to me was what happens to the roof and how the building gets complete when those pieces are missing. So I think that's something that would, I don't have any inherent objection to what you're proposing from what I see in the photographs. I agree some of it's old, some of it's older, original. But it's also, it also isn't, what you're preserving.
Maybe I can clarify, the existing, the main roof structure, which is an L shape for both buildings, is intact. There are wings that were extended in the sense of reverse gables. You can see on this aerial view, I think helps a little bit. You can see we're looking now southwest. So the eastern building, the main roof structure on that eastern building is being maintained. And
what about the other building?
And the other building, the L shape is maintained, and just the back portion of the gable, so that the piece that extends to the side will still exist. It just will return and hip into the other side, just as if, so it is a logical break point of the hip that is facing east is just extended where the separation occurs.
Well, it just needs to be made a lot more clear.
If I may, this is Randy Black. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Who's this little guy with the beard?
It's great to talk. I wanted to fill in a little bit of background detail. I became the preservation consultant really at the outset back in June of 2019. And I think it's really important to mention that we scheduled and conducted a special meeting on site with the HRC, and they were able to look at those additions on the back, and they had determined that the demolition was not an issue and I want to clarify that from their perspective.
Well, yeah, the staff report says that the HRC staff had a problem with it. I wanted to hear what the HRC Philly said. So
yeah, I thought that
they've not taken any action here, right?
No, well, they at their last meeting, they really made a motion to give conceptual approval, final details to come in and also to share with your commission. But to date, there's been a sense of this moving in the right direction, and that just with what's waiting is the final finished details.
Well, I think saving those houses is brilliant, and there aren't very many projects that would come in and say, let's keep those houses. I think it's terrific.
Well, I should jump in, and I should tell you that in that early June meeting last year, it was mentioned to me was we want to tear both of these down, and I said, well, then it's time for me to leave. And so it worked out. I think it can be a great fill in an urban area that takes historic properties in mind and design off of that. And also it's important to always say, which everyone knows, Bob, certainly you do, but new buildings need to be a part of their own time too. So materials, styles, that can be different, but it has to fit in with the existing historic fabric.
Why is this here, or why is this at HRC? Is this in a historic district, or are these buildings listed, or?
The East Town Street Historic District is one of the districts that the HRC is responsible for reviewing.
Okay, so this is in the, okay, that was my question.
It's in the east, yeah, it's in the East Town Street Historic District. It's Back Road is another one, the Downtown District, South High, all of that.
Randy, can I jump in for 1 second?
Sure.
Hey everyone, this is Jamie with Shift Capital, and just to help clarify a little bit of the question on the demolition and the HRC's feelings, we did receive a COA stamp set of drawings regarding the demolition from the HRC at the end of last week. So they have been on board with this and have issued us COA drawings for that.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, to clarify, if you look at the building to the top of the page, where the L returns toward the south, we just extend that back straight and clip the back side of the other structure. Those the roof ridges coincide.
Yeah.
And so the roof plan that's in our package shows how we're just taking that back portion off. Obviously, we're re-roofing the building, but you can see in the building to the left how that returns.
Okay. Comments from other commissioners?
I think it's a great project. Joe, you've done a nice job.
I agree.
I wanted to mention the when you come from the street to the entryway of the new building, and in the rendering, it looked like you show a car there as well, and a car turning the corner into the alley. And I'm just thinking that's something that I think would be really important to look at and detail and understand how that experience would be for the pedestrian. So right there. So for instance, that will be the way that he's driving in, that they, from the garage, they would enter the building on foot. And I'm just wondering that you really want to develop and understand if you're going to have any kind of vehicular access or not, and how you could develop the plaza area between the two buildings and what that walkway back to the entry would be. Because I think that would really enhance the project and make it successful.
We have I think that's a very good point. We have a landscape hardscape plan. It was not complete by the time we made this application. That is an existing driveway, but we want to enhance the hardscape between the two buildings. We will be using that area for some supplemental parking for the two homes that are on those two houses. Each become a double. They each become a stacked one-bedroom units. So there end up being 4 units there. And so that driveway would have some parking for just those units, but the access to the parking garage does not come from that side. The access comes from the alley, and it's a one-way circulation in the garage. That will be the pedestrian access. There also will be a pedestrian access between the two homes with a really nice walkway and wrought iron gate that accesses from Rich Street. I also neglected to mention a comment that came from the HRC. They did not like the little canopy element that we had over the entry, and I agreed that was not maybe an ideal solution. So that is being changed to a flat canopy that is actually the entry doors and the side lights are partially recessed in the building. And so that canopy will extend out about 2 feet beyond the building, but be a flat section, which I think is much more in keeping with the character that we're trying to achieve.
Okay, and I also noticed when I was looking at the materials, are you using, it looked like you're using slate roofs for the existing building and the new building? Or is that, did I read that incorrectly?
They're shingled roof.
Oh, shingle roof.
Okay.
Okay.
Asphalt shingles.
That was wishful thinking, Jana.
Yes, yes.
I think it said slate. It said something. It had the name slate in it.
Line.
Right. So I was hoping.
Antique slate is the color.
But I didn't think so. But still, you're using it. Looks, and that was just my last comment. That, and I'm sure you will do this because it looked like a very cool project. Just because these are older and they're very, they're detailed very well. That whenever you have the opportunity to do that on actual mullions, have some depth to them. They don't have to be real mullions, but maybe they, have some depth and they don't look like they're just a strip or anything else that gives the materials a feeling of permanence and quality, and I think would really enhance the whole project.
Yeah, the new building will have simulated divided light on the windows,
Okay.
so that there is a scale to that will give good shadow lines and the character that we're after. We're very concerned about the profile of that, and on the existing home, those windows have been replaced, and our intent is to salvage some windows that are part of the demolition and move those into new openings. So we're not proposing new windows for the two homes, but obviously keeping all the existing trim and it's in relatively decent condition. So that was important to maintain all that.
Can I see the side elevations again?
I'm sorry, what, Tony?
Can I see the side elevations of the new building?
Oh, yes.
I think my comment has to do with it, maybe potentially adding, so the colored ones.
Colored ones, okay. There we go.
The side that you were looking for.
One more, yep, going, there we go. I wish there was more vertical elements. It sort of looks like a layering of cakes. And so if we could add in something that goes vertical, I feel like that would help break up that facade and make it not look such like a layered cake. The other thing too is, and maybe I just can't see it as well, is the articulations around the windows just seem like they're sort of just popping up there. And especially from the historic buildings out front, they have, some refinement around the edging of the window. Yeah, okay, now I can feel it better. Okay, never mind.
Could we have the plan again of the new building? That open courtyard? Does that have a solid wall on both ends of it?
Yes. There are openings. One side has the elevator and stair. And so there are the openings occur on either side of that. There's a solid section where the stair occurs, and then there are windows flanking it, and that we have a separation concern, it's a building code separation that we have to be solid with a certain percentage of opening. And so we've chosen to use windows as part of that, the openings on the two sides.
Oh, those windows go into the courtyard. Okay, I didn't realize
They
that.
go into the courtyard.
Okay. And could we have the ground floor plan, please? So the entrance to this building that we saw in the rendering is...
It's actually to the left.
Yeah.
The double door entry, and that is moved in and being slightly recessed, and that is visible from Rich Street straight down the driveway, and then that gets improved as part of the our landscape plan.
All right, any other comments? Tony, Mike?
No, it's
Jana?
good. I assume you're putting the condensing units on the roof, Joe?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think you've heard comments from the commissioners. I think it's a very exciting project. I think it's great to see any of the few houses that remain in the downtown Columbus, in the downtown area, retained to keep that scale and sense of detail. And I think the new building is going to be really nice. So we look forward to you coming back with all the detail.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I want to mention,
everyone.
Randy, I'm in Chicago, and if folks are ever in Chicago and you haven't taken the architectural boat tour, the historic architectural boat tour at night, I would strongly recommend it. It's wonderful.
It's
So there you go.
fabulous. Okay. Are you living in Chicago?
Great. What's that?
Are you living in Chicago?
Well, no. My son, my youngest son, lives
right.
here,
Gotcha.
and so decided to come and we took the tour last night, and it was a perfect evening for it. So I really recommend that if you haven't done it, and if you have, do it again. It's great.
Yeah.
Great to talk.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lewis, what else do we have?
So the last thing we have to do is do the formal motion to enter the staff approvals into the record.
Anybody have any questions about staff approvals? No, we have a motion to approve.
To approve.
A second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? You made it through another month, Lewis.
We have to figure out how to cut down on the meeting time. These are long meetings, but all right. Well,
It's good to have a full agenda.
it is. That's true. Good development going on.
It'll be good to get back into the actual meeting room.
Yes,
It will.
please God, let it be so.
Yeah.
Smoother.
All right. If that's it, motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Any objection? No
Second.
objection. Motion passes. We'll see you all next time.
All right.
Bye.